So my question to myself today is, what happens to our mental health, to our sense of meaning, to our motivation, or to even to our personality and behavior when you're stuck at the bottom stages of this hierarchy? That is, what happens when, what does your behavior look like, or your personality look like? How does it mold your personality when you're worried about your next meal, or you're worried about the money in your bank account? How has that shaped us in this day and age? Hello, everybody. I'm back for another episode of Psychologist with me, Deji. I'm here again at Cambridge University, and I thought I would actually speak to you about something that has been one of my favorite theories and one of the most applicable psychology theories throughout my life, to be honest, and especially now. It's Maslow's hierarchy of need, and I want to speak about it in the context of today, in the context of the cost of living crisis, the time crisis, the burnout crisis, any of the things that, if you're a working person in London or any city that's similar, probably feels at the moment. I think like you see a lot of this narrative on social media that, one, cost of living, like everything's expensive, people don't have disposable income. Argument that that's first world problems, but still we feel like that. Number two, like nobody feels like they have enough time to do the stuff that they need to do. And then number three, I think like burnout, like everybody's exhausted. Everybody feels like they're working too hard. Everybody feels stressed trying to juggle all of their commitments in life. So yeah, I want to talk about Maslow's hierarchy in that context, and why, with all of that going on in this crisis, why self-actualization, which is the last stage of Maslow's hierarchy of need, feels like it's unattainable. Basically, like, how do you reach that? I'm such a huge fan of self-actualization as a concept, and yeah, I think a lot of people will feel like actually the best version of themselves, or the highest functioning version of themselves, is unattainable with everything going on at the moment. So yeah, kind of, can you self-actualize when you're broke? Basically, like, can you self-actualize when you're struggling? Can you self-actualize in this climate? Okay, so first, I guess, like, always trying to speak to the layperson first. What is Maslow's hierarchy of need? Well, it's a motivation theory, and it basically says that we rank our needs and put them into certain categories. So yeah, like, we rank our needs in terms of how crucial they are, and once you complete one stage, you're able to progress to the second level of need, or the second stage of need. So the bottom stage says that at a basic level, the first thing we're worried about is our physiological needs. So that's the basic things you need for survival, that anybody, any living thing can relate to. So it kind of goes back to like evolutionary theory and stuff. So like, what, air, water, food, shelter, clothing. Some people would argue sex is in that. Well, sex is supposed to be reproduction, but that's arguable whether that's a need to survive, as in like your own personal survival. But I guess, again, if you go back to evolutionary theory and community theories, then yeah, like that was obviously a need to reproduce, because it wasn't just the self wasn't just about you, it was about your community and your race, essentially. But yeah, we'll put that to the side. But yeah, for everybody can understand that the first thing you would think about when you wake up, if you didn't have these things, was about where you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep, what does shelter look like, where you getting air, where you getting water, those sorts of things. Obviously, it's hardly ever in today's day and age, especially in the first world, it's hardly, we never really need to think about that. Like, I don't wake up every day and wonder where I'm going to be sleeping, because I just woke up in a double bed sort of thing. I don't wake up and think, where am I getting food today? I might wake up and think, what am I eating today? But not, am I going to be able to eat today because I've got food in my fridge. So yeah, we hardly ever need to think about that, and I would assume and I hope that most of the people listening are the same. Like, you don't have to think about your physiological needs. Nonetheless, that is the theory. That is the level at the bottom. The second level, once you've catered to your physiological needs, are your safety needs. So I guess this is somewhat linked to survival, but I think it's more about the comfortableness of living. So yeah, your personal security, employment is a big thing, resources, all the resources you need, your health, that's a very big thing as well, and I guess property in today's day and age. Like, actually, is my place where I'm sleeping my place where I'm sleeping? I guess the difference between the safety needs and the physiological needs is because it's one thing knowing where you're going to sleep, knowing that you've got a bed to sleep in. It's another thing that bed being yours and belonging to you, sort of thing. So yeah, level 2, safety needs. Once you've catered for your physiological needs and your safety needs, that's where you get to love and belonging. So this is where people are seeking friendship, intimacy, family, and a sense of connection, that kind of community. Again, arguable that community and that connection and love should be at the very bottom. That's one of our first needs we think about, and it's essential to survival, but it's the third stage in Maslow's hierarchy. So yeah, once you feel safe and your physiological needs are catered for, the next thing we want is love and belonging, basically. And then the fourth stage is esteem. So we want respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. So yeah, again, you can understand, once you've got the love, what are the other things people look for? What are the other things people are seeking? I think, yeah, self-esteem and status and recognition and strength is a big one. So here we're starting to get into less of the survival thoughts, less of the actually, I just need to be happy. It's more about, when you are happy, what do you then strive for? If you can say that you've got all of these things, if you've got a happy family and you've got a roof over your head, and you know where your kids are eating, you know where you're eating, and all of those lower level needs are catered for, what do people seek next? I think everybody should ask themselves that question. What are you seeking after you reach that stage of your life? And then the final stage is self-actualization. People don't really hear this word a lot. It's not a word that's broken into pop culture yet, and I really wish it would. And literally on this thing I'm reading, which is on Simply Psychology, it just says self-actualization is the desire to become the most that one can be. Now, I studied this theory ages ago, like when I was like 18, and I loved it so much because I love the concept of self-actualization, because it kind of leaks into positive psychology. I think so much of psychology is about the negative and the survival and what you're supposed to be doing when you're struggling, and what you're supposed to be doing when your mental health, especially clinical psychology, is about mental health. So when your mental health is in the gutter, basically, or when it isn't thriving, when you're struggling. But positive psychology kind of speaks to the fact that actually, when you aren't struggling, there are still levels of mental health. There's still levels of psychology. There's still so much more that you can gain from all of the things that would have helped you when you were struggling. So it's kind of like, I think we have a good idea of this concept with physical health. So with physical health, yeah, we know that when you're struggling with your physical health, you might need to go to your doctor, you might need to go to A&E, and there are treatments and things you can do to help you to recover, to keep you alive, to help you to survive, or to get you back to a place where you should be with regards to your health. But when you do have good health, or what we consider to be good health in society, we acknowledge that there are other stages, or there are levels above the average level of physical health. So, like, a good example is lung capacity. Like, there's a standard lung capacity, but there are probably like swimmers that have greater lung capacity than most standard people or long distance runners. So actually, they've done something, they've done a specific kind of training or something to enhance their physical health beyond the standard. So they're so far away from struggling in that regard of their lung capacity because they've enhanced that. Same thing with strength. Same thing with the taking vitamins, like when you're not struggling, just to make you feel better in general. I feel like, again, we have a good understanding that physical health is on a spectrum, and you have bad physical health at this end of the spectrum, you have average health, but then there's so many things that you can do in so many different dimensions of physical health to get you to the next level. That's why we have superstars and people at the Olympics they can do so much more than the average person with regards to anything physical. So yeah, I feel like that's the understanding that we have of physical health, that actually there are levels to this, like, and the top level isn't just good health. Actually, there are levels above that to enhance your physical health. Same thing with mental health. I've always felt like this about mental health. Most people only access counseling, therapy when they are struggling. What if you're not struggling? What if you're happy and then you decide to access counseling and therapy? There are so many different dimensions of the mind, of behavior, of mental health. There's different levels of resilience. There's different levels of self-awareness. There's different levels of tolerance. There's different levels of problem solving. There's so much we can do to enhance our mind and to take our mind to the next level. So much. It's like, I can't even begin to name them. There's so much you can do that will actually help your day-to-day functionality. Like, you can brain train. Like, there are brain training games and stuff. You can train your brain to function better. And self-actualization, I think, speaks to that actually, yeah, once you've got all of your needs catered for, still seek to develop so you can become the highest functioning version of yourself. Yeah, I love that theory. I've always gone like that. Like, when I haven't really struggled with mental health in my life for significant periods. I've had my moments where something's gone wrong and I've been sad, but for the most part, I'm okay. And I would say that I'm happy. Okay, now I'm happy. How do I get to the next stage of life? What do I need to do? I might do a separate video about what I done or what can be done to get yourself to the next stage, or to get yourself to self-actualization. But it will be different for everybody. Like, what are you already good at, or what do you want to achieve? How do you become the highest functioning version of yourself? So yeah, that's the theory. There have been later expansions which I could go into. Cognitive needs, aesthetic needs. Cognitive needs, I guess, is the need to seek knowledge. Aesthetic needs, again, the need to look good. I can speak for ages on that. I think that's such a big thing in society today. And then transcendent needs, which I think that maybe starts to speak to superstitious bits or like spirituality and stuff like that. And yeah, I subscribe to all of them, to be honest. I subscribe to all of them. Why is this theory useful? Well, I feel like its main application to society actually transcends all modules, all dimensions of one's life: work, education, love. It's actually about what motivates people and actually what are the barriers to people getting to the next stage. So what are the barriers of people finding love? What are the barriers of people gaining status or strength or freedom or respect or self-esteem? What are the barriers to people getting to self-actualization? Like, and the argument of the theory is that, I think it's a bit more nuanced than this, but mainly is that actually you can't even focus on love or finding love and belonging and friendship, intimacy, and a sense of connection if your safety needs and your physiological needs aren't catered for. Like, you can't even think of that because your main priority is survival, and to survive you need those lower levels. So it's kind of like saying that actually to climb the ladder, to get to the next stage, to increase your happiness, to get to self-actualization, you need to make sure that everything below that is catered for. So yeah, just to give you a good example of what I would Google self-actualization actually at this stage and just see what it actually means. But yeah, just to give you a few examples: morality, like where your morals at. Can you become a nicer person? That's debatable in itself. Creativity, that's the one that speaks to me the most. I feel like in the stages of my life where everything has been good, that's when I'm at my most creative. Spontaneity, acceptance, experience purpose, meaning, and inner potential. So yeah, I'm just gonna read what it actually is. According to Maslow, human needs were arranged in a hierarchy, with physiological survival needs at the bottom and the more creative and intellectually orientated self-actualization needs at the top. Maslow argued that survival needs must be satisfied before the individual can satisfy the higher needs. The higher up the hierarchy, the more difficult it is to satisfy the needs associated with that stage, because of the interpersonal and environmental barriers that inevitably frustrate us. Higher needs become increasingly psychological and long-term rather than physiological and short-term, as in the lower survival-related needs. So yeah, okay, let's make this applicable. Let's speak to life on this. So yeah, like it's no secret. I don't think I need to pull out statistics. You know me, I'm not really a statistics person, but it's no secret that people are struggling more now, or people believe that they're struggling more now than they were in the past. Again, we've got things like sayings like the cost of living crisis, like people are skipping meals, missing bills, like everybody's got like 2 or 3 jobs or side hustles or something. And social media will be telling us to like meditate, journal, self-help, find our purpose, but like yeah, something just isn't adding up. So my question to myself today is, what happens to our mental health, to our sense of meaning, to our motivation, or to even to our personality and behavior when you're stuck at the bottom stages of this hierarchy? That is, what happens when, what does your behavior look like, or your personality look like? How does it mold your personality when you're worried about your next meal, or you're worried about the money in your bank account? How has that shaped us in this day and age? So yeah, you can make the argument that people are stuck at the bottom 2 stages, to be honest. I mean, in the second stage we have health, like, and stress affects our mental health, it affects our physical health. Employment, again, a lot of people are struggling for work. And yeah, just money. I feel like money should be in that second stage as well, because actually in this day and age, money feels like security. Not that we don't have money to spend, but the idea of having money in your account makes you feel a bit more secure, because at any time, on any day, things can go wrong. So I feel like money should be there too. And yeah, like, it's no secret that people are struggling with these things. So I would make the case that most people are in the bottom 3. I think, I guess if you are doing okay with like money and health and employment, and that's all okay, then I think another thing a lot of people are struggling with is love. Like, we have so much discourse at the moment about love being more difficult to find, even though other people haven't lived, the people speaking about this haven't lived in other generations. But yeah, that seems to be a thing as well, as in like it's harder to find connection nowadays romantically, because everybody's everybody's got red flags or whatever. And then even friendship wise, because we aren't as outside anymore, people are keeping to themselves anymore, people just find people weird, or we have higher standards and stuff. So yeah, I would argue that most people are in these bottom 3 stages and struggling with these stages, to be honest. So yeah, then what happens when you are stuck at these stages? Like, I feel like I've been there. I feel like I've been there for sure. And I think you're very focused on the short term. That kind of, where's my next meal coming from? And not only in relation to food, but that sort of mentality that actually I'm thinking very short term about one of my needs rather than thinking long term. I think that's number 1. And then I think the biggest thing for me is like the decrease in motivation. This is a theory of motivation, basically. And the decrease in motivation, and as I kind of alluded to before, creativity. Now, I used to live with I moved out of my parents' house quite young, a lot younger than most of my boys, and probably earlier than what made financial sense. Not that I couldn't afford rent, but like I was struggling for disposable income at the time. I could definitely pay my rent, but I didn't have the disposable income to save properly or to do whatever I wanted to do. But I did the maths before I moved out, and I knew that that was probably better for me because of this theory, actually, because of this theory. In my household, it was very toxic. It was very, I think a lot of people have this story, but I was confined to my room, and I didn't really want to leave my room and socialize with my family. There was a lot of arguments. So it just felt like, again, it felt like I was in those bottom stages, a lot of stress going on there, a lot of stress. And I've always been a creative. I've always been like wanting to create, and I've never stopped trying to create. That's been a theme throughout my whole life since I was like 5 years old, to be honest. And I had always tried to create when I was as a child, and I felt like it was embraced very early on, and then it was kind of, it wasn't embraced. It was kind of suppressed. Like, I don't think my dad wanted me rapping in the shower, sort of thing. Um, so yeah, I definitely felt like it was suppressed in my household, but I had other outlets to kind of let it out. I had school. Like, I love school because there is so much room for creative expression. Like, you do creative subjects, art, music, dance, drama, and then yeah, there are after school clubs, or like I think I was doing piano lessons at lunchtime and stuff. So yeah, there was still a means to create, and a means to express myself. Even in school, you get a chance to perform, whether that's spitting in the playground or like actually like the Bugsy Malone play or whatever. So like, yeah, although it was being suppressed in my household, I did not feel like that when I went to school. So I kind of still had my outlet. College, very similar. And then uni, yeah, I moved away from my parents, so maximum expression. That's when I remember really acknowledging my creativity and what I might be able to do during uni. Like, I guess when you're a child, so you know you're creative, but you don't really deep it like that. When I was an adult at uni, that's when I realized, like, yo, I actually love to create. Like, I'm opening Fruity Loops every day, though I've got lectures to revise or whatever. And then I think the most difficult part of most people's lives that have my sort of journey is after that freedom of being at uni and having full agency, going back to the situation you lived in before uni. So yeah, this is where I really kind of struggled to be creative, because I was in this household where I felt like I couldn't express myself. Now, there is no outlet as well, because work is work. Like, work, you don't have the means. It's not like school where there's extracurricular bits you can do. Work is work. Like, you're not there to express yourself at work unless you've picked the right field. So yeah, felt very suppressed, felt very much in the bottom two, the lower level of the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy. And yeah, it affected my ability to create. Like, I was creating, but I was trying to squeeze in creation time when my dad wasn't in. And even just the constant thought of struggling or the stress hampers creativity. So everything I've become today, and I still resent parts of my story because of this. Everything I've become today and how creative I am today happened when I moved out. When I moved out, that's when I started being able to do things and actually seeing it become fruitful. When I was in my house, wasn't possible. So yeah, that's why, and since then I've taken this theory so seriously. I've always been like, okay, my freedom and me making sure that I have catered to the lower levels is so important for my self-esteem and my self-actualization. Like, who knows what I can become if I clear the first two levels. If I'm good with that, then I can really do a lot. And yeah, I saw that happen. As soon as I moved out and there was less stress and more freedom, I was way more creative and way more productive and essentially way more happy. So yeah, that's what I would say. I guess part of this theory that I think happens in other people hasn't really happened in me, just because I think I got lucky. But I feel like when you are at the lower levels, the one thing that is hard to attain is love, and actually like a healthy love where you can be yourself and be loving. I don't think when so many of your emotions and your cognitions are going to these lower level needs, your safety, your survival, and just being stressless, I don't think you're emotionally available. Like, I do think like there's a certain bandwidth, emotional bandwidth, and I do think it gets used up quite quickly by stressors. So yeah, basically creativity comes from a stressless life. Happiness, or you being able to fully seek the things that make up your happiness, comes from a stressless life. There's no real advice that comes from this apart from understand the different levels of needs, cater to what you need to cater to, and then try to climb the ladder. I think one of the things that I did that really helped is I consciously tried to climb the ladder. It's pretty straightforward anyway, because again, as the theory says, like, you're not thinking about anything else until you feel safe, until you know you're surviving, and then you start to think about the next stuff, and then you start to think about the next stuff. I will apply some critical thinking here and say there are loads of stories that go against this theory as well. I mean, how many people do you know say that their story is they were their most creative when they struggled the most, when they were in real crisis? I mean, you have like success stories of people sleeping in cars or losing their jobs, or like tragedy happening in their life, like losing loved ones, and that's where they were most creative. That totally like goes against what this theory speaks to, that actually you would need to get out of that situation before you can become fully creative. Um, so yeah, but definitely for me, like I guess that's I think different people will take it in different ways. I definitely do better when I'm less stressed or not thinking about my lower level needs. Yeah, so I guess something to take away from this is the whole, I think in today's society there's so much pressure to grind it out and overwhelm yourself with side hustles so you look a certain way to people. So yeah, I believe like self-actualization shouldn't be a luxury. It is hard to attain, I believe. That's why it's at the top of the hierarchy. But I believe everybody should see what they're like self-actualized. And if you think about it, if you subscribe to the theory, everybody self-actualized just helps society. It means that we have more creative people, more productive people. So I guess society should be working to make sure that people are in the best place to climb the ladder, because it's only going to benefit us. I guess for the individuals out there, I would say, where are you on the pyramid right now? Think about where you are on the pyramid right now, and like, what do you need to do to get to the next stage? The theory doesn't go that far as to say like, actually, yeah, you should be doing this. It just kind of highlights where you might be, what you might be struggling with, and what needs need to be met. So yeah, just have a think about that, and what would it take for you to get to the next stage? And yeah, let me know if you agree with this theory, if you disagree. If you see holes in the theory, let me know if it applies to your life. Let me know if you're going to use this theory to help you change your behavior in future. Yeah. I hope you got something from it. I'm always fascinated by self-actualization and Maslow's hierarchy of need. Um, I think, yeah, needs are not being met at all in this day and age, or at least we don't think they are. And I think we need to change that. So I think more people need to be aware of this theory and how it can apply to their lives. So yeah, run over, run over.